Welcome to another episode of the Impro Pod podcast. My guest today is Adam Foran, who's a multi-instrumentalist and composer for film, TV and podcasts. And we met at the London podcast show a month or so ago.
Yeah, it was a great time. I was there to give a little presentation. This very interesting guy comes up to me afterwards and tells me about the Impro Pod. We were just talking about how one goes about creating music for podcasts and how it's similar but different from scoring films in that it's not necessarily linear. I'd be preparing like a package of music for the company rather than in a film I'd be doing scene by scene, really going through all the details.
And so tell us a bit about what you're working on at the moment, composer-wise.
Yeah, I've got a really exciting one coming up. Whenever something's coming up, I can't spill too much beans on it. But basically, I've got a action, sci-fi, future dystopian thing. And so that'll be a lot of synth music. The director's been sending me stuff from like John Carpenter, but also Trent Reznor and stuff like that. In those cases, I get into just tweaking synths and just coming up with really cool sounds. So it's pretty different than a lot of the other music I would be doing, which is more using acoustic instruments and microphones.
So to add to the Impro Pod map then, Adam is based in St. John's, Newfoundland, and the upcoming whale and owl stories take place in Cape Royal. You can check out the map, which features the approximate locations of stories and guests at impropod.com. So I'm going to play you a piece of music that's completely improvised, and I want you to tell me what it makes you think of, so that anything that comes into your mind, just don't analyze it too much. So what did you think of that?
That's awesome. It was really strongly making me picture like a sunrise, even though the notes are falling. Yeah, a sunrise in Cape Royal, maybe because we were just talking about Cape Royal. The bit of chaos there is like the squirrels coming about and the birds and everything waking up, the wind rustling, all the different things while you're looking at this beautiful sight of a very calm sunrise. We're using a lot of like major tonality, more or less.
Those kind of flighty melodic passages.
It's pastoral in a way, even though it's fast. Like, it's not like Beethoven's Pastoral Symphony. I'm picturing like a lot of little creatures scurrying about.
So I'd like you to tell me a story of some kind. And what I do is I break the story down into sections and then improvise a soundtrack to the story.
Yeah, I feel like I had to set it a bit, but I was talking there a bit about Cape Royal. Newfoundland is an island in the North Atlantic, and the little bay communities like that are just so peaceful and so beautiful. You've got access to the water there right in front of you. One day, me and my buddy decided to go out in the kayaks, and it was a beautiful day, calm water, really nothing to be worried about. I had met a bunch of like the humpback whales in the area. They come around for the summer, and they pretty much the same whales might stay around for a month or so. So I had already been out in the boat and had the whales doing kind of circles around me, like at a far distance. They weren't getting close to me, but they were really curious. And so it's just, there's nothing else like that. You're talking about humpback whales. They're the size of about 4 school buses per whale. It's just ridiculously huge. And they come up and look at you with that big eye, and you feel like you're seeing right into their soul. It's just incredible. One day, me and my buddy, we were pretty far from the house, like all the way across the bay. And I'd seen these 2 whales splashing around. As you see their fins come up, they'll slap their tails down. They'll lift their heads up while they're catching some fish. It's just amazing to see. And so I'm in one spot, just sitting there in my glee, just enjoying the show, right? And then I noticed that the water under me is changing and getting darker. I didn't really think much of it at first, but I look over and the 2 whales were then facing towards me from like really far away, but they're facing towards me and they both submerged at the same time while pointing at me. So it's like looking at two nuclear submarines just go under while they're rushing towards you. And so then I noticed that what was going on with the water under me was that the capelin fish had swarmed under me, which is like little sardines, like the little fish that the whales are trying to eat. There could be like 10,000 or 100,000 of these fish in a school, I guess you call it. And so, yeah, I look down and it's just absolutely black with fish. And there's two whales coming straight towards me. And I'm in a little plastic boat. And then my buddy over there is shouting. He's like, move, you got to go. So I just started paddling as fast as I could in whatever direction. And a few seconds later, I turn around and in the exact spot where I had just been, these two humpbacks come up face first, like mouth open, up out of the water, eating that school of fish. And it's like, I was just there. So I guess it's a story about almost getting swallowed by two whales. I don't know that they would have, I was in a plastic boat. I probably would have just got tossed into the air, but this super dangerous and stupid thing.
It's a great story. So musically then, I'm going to go for this sense of, first of all, you're in awe of these creatures just on your kayak, and then you see the water change, and there's this sense of like something shifted. You see the shoal of fish.
But it's terrifying. Like my stomach dropped, I started paddling harder than I knew I could paddle, because it's like you go from being in this peaceful pastoral situation, just listening to the waves, to all of a sudden fighting for your life for a few seconds anyway.
Yeah, and then so it all changes, and then just as you manage to get out the way, you see the sort of jaws of...
Yeah, it looks like a W if you picture it. Two open mouths right next to each other, just firing up 20 feet into the air.
Okay. All right, so I'm going to try and translate that into music. Let's see how it goes. Interesting. What did you think of that?
You're really quick. I mean, this improvising is quick, but geez, man. Yeah, you started it off really pleasant, and it's like I could feel the waves, and how waves are not just one like whoosh, but it's all these little intricate. So I felt like your low notes were the big rollers, and then your high notes were all the little details and like the seagulls flying around and all that. And then when you started getting dark, it was really a lot of notes at once, which is like the little fish. They're just kind of lines going everywhere. Flap-a-da, flap-a-da, flap. And then you started getting really big for the whales. I'd say just maybe we get even bigger for the whales. Like a big low chord for when they come up. That's what I feel like would go there. Anyway, I can't remember exactly what you had there now. It was working though. But I feel like there should be one moment where it's just, you know what I mean? And then it drops away.
Cool. All right, I'll go for another take then.
I liked the intro more on the second one. It's a nice day. We're having a good time. And then again, you got into some really crazy stuff for the fishes coming. But then this time, yeah, the whale, I felt like it was more there. It was more scary. And then also what you did after the whale was interesting this time because it wasn't like, okay, it's over. It was more like still feeling the anxiety of it. Because like my heart was racing for a week after that. I feel like you captured the weirdness at the end then too, where it's like I'm sat there in the ocean with my buddy being like, so should we go home now?
And so if we were to somehow collaborate on this musical performance, should I send you that piece of music or would you like something kind of simple?
We could go with that, yeah. Because I mean, it's very chaotic and like I can see adding some instruments to it. I've got a cello over here, like that'd be great for the big moment. I've got a flute, which would be great for the beginning. And then maybe flute and clarinet during the bit with the little fishes.
A piece like that, you just sort of use your intuition, or do you have a particular process?
No, I mean, I'd try and do more or less what you're doing and keep it in the spirit of the Impro Pod. When I'm composing music, it is a lot of like layered improvising. If I come up with a piano part or something else that's good, then I usually just turn on the mic and pick up another instrument. And while it might not be my first take that goes in, it's like whatever I start playing is usually going to fit the music right away. And that's kind of how I build my arrangements. It's just, yeah, whatever feels like it wants to come out of the instrument is what goes in the music. Where the music is extra free and not tied to any particular key, not tied to any tempo. It's just going wild. Like I just listen to it enough times to get it in my head and then just without thinking too hard, just play right along, I think.
That's what's nice about being a multi-instrumentalist is you can just pick stuff up and think, well, I can play this flute, cello.
Yeah, and sometimes I'll pick up one instrument and start going with it, and then I'm just like, you know what? No, I changed my mind.
So here's the piece of music based on the whale story. There's my improvisation on piano, and it features Adam on flute and cello. Amazing. Great mix of instruments. So what was your process?
I think the same way as you were, is there's three different distinct sections. We've got the going out to sea in the boat and everything's good, and then you see all the fish swarming and the whales coming in and it's bad, and then you've got a moment of kind of relief towards the end. So I tried to help out the composition by demarcating that in three different sections, right? So just by the instruments that I'm using in those three sections, while at the same time it's like the piano is already really active. It's doing a lot of stuff, especially in the middle part. It's hard to add anything to that without just making a mess. In the first section, we've got the flute and the cello kind of playing high flitty-ditty stuff, just really nice. But then when we get into the bit where all the fish are swarming around, the piano's doing as much as it can. It's already playing 1,000 notes. So all I've got is like the flute is flicking, doing that thing where it goes up the octave and down again. You just push and it just does that. And I've got a harp I play it really fast, just like fingers just going diddly 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 like little spiders on the harp. I'm not looking at what note I'm playing. What you do is you tune the harp beforehand to the exact thing that you want to do with it. And then when you go and do it, you don't have to think too hard. You just go diddly 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 diddly, really fast. And it sounds like a bunch of fish, I guess. I realized partway through as I was improvising that the cello wasn't working, so I just started plucking on it and going bum 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 on the high notes. So it's like you get all this stuff coming together and it feels like this swarm of sound and all that. I think that worked. You got this really nice piano bit that's coming back in at the end after the whale has gone away and I've survived and I'm there. It's like this really great chords that you've got. But I was trying to get a heartbeat under it. I had nothing around other than the cello itself, so I started just tapping on the body of the cello. It's like a wooden heartbeat that you hear at the end. It's like dum dum. Dum, dum, we're gonna be okay. I was just trying to take what you had and as quickly as I could throw a bunch of stuff together and see if it worked. It's messy, it's crazy, it's loud, but it fits for a crazy loud story. I think we did a good job.
Do you have another story you could tell?
Sure, yeah. Living in the middle of nowhere, you would tend to get into gardening and all that kind of homesteading stuff. So I built a greenhouse, had nice garden beds, and I started raising chickens. So I'd go out every day and collect the eggs, feed the chickens, have a little conversation with them. It's pretty fun. They're like pets. And sometimes I'd let them out and so they could just walk around because it's good for them and whatever. But you have to accept that that is also dangerous for them because they're prey to pretty much everything. One time a pine marten came and ate a few of them. It's kind of like a weasel type creature. And anyway, nothing you can do about that. But one day I went out there and I couldn't see any chickens anywhere. I should have 10 and there were 0. I was like, okay, this is bad. And I keep looking around and I see some feathers. Oh, okay, what's going on? And I had a broom in my hand. I was just sweeping up a mess in the driveway there. And finally I see like, okay, actually, yeah, there is a dead chicken over there. So something's gone on here. Maybe I should take my headphones off. I had like some heavy metal playing in my headphones, which is another lesson about living in the wild. You can't wear headphones in the woods because you have to know what's around you. So I just looked up from where I was standing, and in the tree branch right above me, about 2 feet away from my face, was a great horned owl, which had just killed all 10 of my chickens. A great horned owl is like the size of, I was calling it a flying pig. Like it's the biggest bird I've ever seen. Its talons or whatever are bigger than my hands. And it was making a motion, like scrubbing at me, like get away. Because I just didn't know it was there. I had the headphones on, rocking out to some Soundgarden or something. So, but lucky I had the broom in my hand. I just kind of freaked out a bit and poked the stick in the air. Not trying to hit the thing or anything, but just trying to scare it away. And sure enough, so it flew away then. It makes this sound when it's flying away, like, whoom, whoom, because like the wings are bigger than my arms. And I was like, no one's going to believe me. This is crazy. So I walked up into the woods, found a trail of dead chickens going up into the woods, and finally found the owl up there and took a little picture of it and went on my way. So no more chickens. That was the last time I ever tried keeping chickens.
Did it manage to eat all of those chickens, or it just wanted to kill them?
It's a murderous beast. I don't know how much it would have ate, but like the way it kills the chickens is by picking them up with 2 hands and just ripping them in half. So you can imagine that seeing this thing 2 feet away from my face when I was lost in my world of music there, it kind of wakes you up pretty quick, much like the whales showing up. You're just like, oh God, like, I should be paying more attention to my surroundings, right? Like there's moose out there, there's coyotes. You know, I saw a lynx one time.
Wow, yeah. Okay, so I'm going to get a sense of the chickens. So chicken-y music. And the way they walk and their movement, it's very distinctively chicken-like, isn't it? Somehow get this heavy metal thing, that's quite interesting. I mean, it is piano, so, but try and get a sense of that. And then this majestic creature. So what did you think of that?
The chickens were lovely, because that's been done a lot in music, right? Let's make silly chicken noise or whatever. But you did it in a really interesting way. You know, I think a lot of people, if they're doing chickens, would just like play a C major chord and some fast staccatos or whatever. But you were using some more interesting harmony there, which I felt like gave the chickens more personality, which is great because they all had names and stuff, you know? Then you got into the bigger stuff, and I really liked most of it. I felt like you resolved to a really strong chord at the end, though. The story doesn't have a resolution, is what I feel like. It's just like the thing kills the chickens, I see it and get scared, and then it flies away. So there's no like happy or sad ending. I was pretty sad about the chickens, obviously, but like it is just the world happening. The way my buddy put it to me, he was like, you're in the owl's world, and you're lucky to have eyeballs after that. We often think of it as being our world. You know, we have buildings and cars and all this, but like if you live out in the woods, you live in owl country, and the owls do what they want. If they're going to eat the chickens, they're going to eat the chickens. I just felt like there was too strong of a resolution at the very end of the piece was all.
All right, here we go. Take 2 then. I'll try and get a better sense of the animal as well, the owl. All right, here we go. Was that any better?
Yeah, it was really neat. The way that you went from the chicken pluckiness to then it becoming more chaotic, but it's like it was still connected thematically this time. I think last time you had the chickens bit and then a separate owl bit, whereas this time the music was about the chickens getting scared. Because it's like they're plucky, 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 blah, 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 blah. Then it's getting heavy and heavy. And it was more about them this time, I felt like. It was cool.
So would you like to try collaborating on that one as well?
Yeah, no, you send me both those, like the second take for each of those pieces. I'm looking at the clarinet over there. I mean, it just is a chicken already. I probably won't bring it. I have an instrument in the corner over there that I made called Chicken Big. And it's like a stick with chicken bones all over it that I use in horror movies. I clank it and it rattles. I feel like that's a bit disrespectful to poor old Betsy to use that. Maybe towards the end, because they did all get eaten, so... rattling bones. But yeah, flutes and clarinets for the chickens, and then maybe back to the cello again for the owl as it kind of swoops in.
So here's the owl composition featuring Adam on cello, flute, mandolin, clarinet, and tambourine, and me on piano.
So the second piece, the owl piece, is totally insane already. The piano's just going. So when I go to add stuff to it, I have to be careful not to step on the piano notes. So you got to look for the spaces where you can add stuff. We're telling a story about chickens. You're going to go for tambourines. You're going to go for mandolins. You're going to go for all kinds of clicky-clucky things. And then as we get into the second half of it, it's into the scary part. Oh, the big old owl is here. I started adding more of the cello so that it could start dropping down lower. It's like we get away from the plicky, clucky chicken stuff just as things start going down, and the piano notes were already going down there. So I couldn't track them. When I'm just improvising, I can't track what notes you're playing and play along with you as if we were a band. So I just started making a mess on the way down. And finally we land down at that bad, sad place, and there's no chickens left. And I've just got the clarinet just mourning these chickens. Oh my God, what have we done, man? You got me to get my tambourine out of the closet, and I sat here and I was going like chicken, 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 and then you get really serious, and then that's what the owl sounds like. So I did that on a couple instruments. The end result is very messy, but it's the Impro Pod, so we're allowed to improvise. I could do this all day.
And so what did you get out of this podcast?
I got to hang out with my good buddy Luke. It's fun to just do music with people. This is just a fun experience to tell my story and then hear it played back to me on the piano.
So if you want to check out your work and previous compositions, just say the website again.
www.adamforan.ca. Foran is Foran. And you'll find all kinds of stuff there, horror movies, documentaries, podcasts. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube. I got a few albums on Spotify, hopefully more soon.
So thanks very much for being on the podcast. It's been very insightful and great to hear your compositions and playing.
Thanks, Luke.
Join us again for another episode of Impro Pod. Thanks for listening.